Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Coco. Today we are doing a very fun book tag, which is one that I love to watch, so I figured I would film my own. And I'm going to tag all of my other fellow small bookish creators, may be mutuals with me. And yeah, let's just not let all the big creators have all the fun. So I have some questions here. We're going to be talking about what I'm wanting to read for the end of the year, what I think is good transitions, etc. We'll get more into the questions, but let's go ahead and get started. So the first one that I want to read may not be super exciting for some other people, but The Rise and Fall of Dinosaurs is a nonfiction science book, popular science book, literally about the rise and fall of dinosaurs by Steve Russotti. I did already start this book and I have several tabs in it. It's just one of those books that for some reason I sat down and didn't pick back up, but I really want to finish it before the end of the year because I really like the way that this author writes. He really shows personality in these academics and these experts within the paleontology field. He talks about these little anecdotes about the parties he went to with these paleontologists, which apparently they party hard. And I just think it's really interesting, but it also is really informative. So I need to finish that. There's also, if you've listened to Critical Role, I have not yet, which is part of why I've paused this book. But Tusk Love is a book that did not start out as a real book. It actually started out as one of the D&D campaign members' characters' romance book that they were reading, I think. And then the people from Critical Role had this author write this book for real because I think a lot of people were probably requesting it. I am pausing it because I actually haven't listened to Critical Role yet. I've done other D&D podcasts, not that one for some reason. Just haven't had the chance yet. I have so many podcasts and so little time, but I do want to try and get to the point where this book starts existing. But look, this is the inside. It's what it would look like if it was in the D&D campaign. And I think I'll just get more out of it if I know exactly where this book came from and all the jokes involved with it. So we're going to wait to read that, but it is going to be done before the end of the year, I think. I hope. And then the next question is, do you have any autumnal books that you want to read to transition into the end of the year? And I know it says autumn. I'm going to say autumn into winter because I think that I have some books that would be good for both. The Second Death of Locke is an epic fantasy that I think is just really evokes the end of fall for me for some reason. And I think it would be perfect for that. It's about, I think, a mage and the knight has pledged herself to this mage, but the mage has a secret that they're really, really important to all magic in the kingdom. If this mage dies, then all magic does. It's kind of, I think, a will they, won't they romance, but also just this epic fantasy that I think would be perfect for this time of year. And I'm really excited about it. And yes, I did immediately click on it when I first saw it because the cover is so pretty. But I'm also just really excited about the premise in general. All the Centers Bleed by S.A. Cosby is a thriller, and I think thrillers are also perfect for this time of year. Nothing really happens towards the end of the year. We get into December and there starts being holiday stuff, but I think November is kind of a chill month where there's not much to do. If you live in the Midwest like me, all the leaves have fallen, but the snow has not started yet. It's just kind of gray and dreary. There's a couple good things. Everything else is just kind of meh. I think that a thriller can kind of spice things up a little bit. This one is a thriller that I feel like will probably have some depth to it, which S.A. Cosby I've heard is known for that. It is about a black sheriff who lives in this very racist small town and was recently elected to be the sheriff. And one of his deputies kills a kid at a school, and there's just kind of the whole town is reeling and trying to figure out what to do. And he's investigating this situation and learns that there may be a serial killer hiding in plain sight that is somewhat related to the shooting, I think. Not 100% sure. I go in and out of reading thrillers, but I do find myself reading them more towards the end of autumn and into winter. Maybe no one else relates thrillers to winter or the end of fall, but I do. Another one that I want to read is Bad Cree by Jessica Johns. This is about a Cree woman who her sister has died recently. She starts having these dreams and she is going to investigate back home and see why she's having these dreams. I may be completely butchering this synopsis. So she has to go back and figure out if her dreams are actually telling her something. She feels really guilty about some things, and I think it's just her reckoning with her sister's death. I assume this is grief horror, and I am wary about that, but the times that I have read it, I think grief horror does really well if it's done responsibly. And I think that Jessica Johns will do that. And I want to be reading more Indigenous authors as well, because it's set in Alberta in Canada in winter. It's going to be perfect for the end of the year. And then some silly goofy ones are Good Spirits by B.K. Borison. It's about the ghost of Christmas past, and he's haunting this woman. He usually haunts people who are bad, who have things that they need to atone for, but she seems like this perfect, like, sweet person. She runs an antique shop, and they both are like, I don't know, why am I assigned to you? So I think they're both going down the rabbit hole of both of their pasts and trying to figure things out, and may do a little smoochy kissy kiss and fall in love along the way. We shall see. I mean, it's a romance book, so yes, it's going to happen, but I think it'll be really cute. Another ridiculous one, The Nightmare Before Christmas, is a queer romance between the Prince of Halloween and the Prince of Christmas, and they're not supposed to be together, but they also may do a little bit of a kissing, and I think that'll be really cute too. So that'll probably be a late November, early December read. And then are there still 2025 new releases that have not yet released as of me filming this video that I am waiting for? And I would say yes, there are a few. There's a couple that I didn't realize existed or were going to exist until I was doing research for this video. The first one I actually have had on my TBR ever since it was available to list to read on Storygraph, which I feel like has been at least a year. And that is I, Medusa by Ayana Gray. And this is a retelling of Medusa. If you know the story of Medusa, she was basically, I believe, assaulted by Poseidon, and she retaliated and tried to save herself, ended up getting punished and being turned into a gorgon, and any person that she looked at would turn to stone. We all know the story. This is a retelling of that. Her locks end up turning into snakes. She ends up being brought under Athena's wing and trying to thrive and live her life. And I know there's much more of a storyline to that, but I also kind of want to go into this blind, especially because I do know the basis of the Medusa story, and I don't want all of like the tweaks and changes revealed to me before I read it, because that's what makes a retelling fun, is it's a little bit different from the original story. So I want to read that for sure. That is, I think, coming out in the middle of November. So there are two other books that I want to read that have not come out yet this year. I think both of these might be YA, or one of them might be a romance and another one is a YA romance, and that's why I haven't really looked into it yet. But I'll Find You Where the Timeline Ends is by Kylie Lee Baker. She wrote Bat Eater and Other Names for Cora Zhang, a book about grief. It's a horror book that has to do with hungry ghosts and a death of the main character's sister and COVID, and it's just the only COVID book that I read that I actually was able to get through without it being too much or just like done in a way that I didn't like. That book I gave, I think, a 4.5, and I really enjoyed her writing style. She has other backlists, but I'd love to read this new book from her. It's a YA romance about a teen descendant of a Japanese dragon god, and she has to find out the truth about her sister without falling in love with a rogue agent that is helping her, which is very YA, but I think it's going to be really good, and it's definitely something that I want to read because I love Kylie Lee Baker's writing, and I'm very curious to see how she writes YA. I think she actually started in YA, but I never read any of her YA stuff. I just know that I really loved her horror, her adult horror. So we'll see if I can read from her from other genres and like it. So the other book that I want to read is by Jessie Q. Sutanto. Next Time Will Be Our Turn. Wrote the Vera Wong books, which I love. They're actually on my shelf right now. I have not read a romance from Jessie Q. Sutanto. I've only read her mysteries, so I'm really excited about this. It is about a young Chinese girl who's grappling with her sexuality because she feels as though it's not going to be accepted in her Chinese family. And then she walks in on her grandma kissing a woman and is like, what? I didn't know we could do that. And her grandma tells the story of her falling in love as an immigrant supposed to be going to school in LA, and has a forbidden romance with this other girl, and is worried that her decisions are going to like ruin her chance at making it in America. It's just like an intergenerational love story that I think is going to be beautiful. Both of these books are very different from the author's other books that I've read from them, but I really think that they're going to be really good, and I think I'm going to like them. So we'll see how it goes. Those two I think are both published November 11th. Are they both November 11th? They're going to be published mid-November, and I think November is going to be a good reading month for me because we need some new books. And then this one I did have to somehow whittle down to 3 because it specifically says 3. What are the 3 books you want to read before the end of the year? So I have the second and third book in the Bear and the Nightingale series. I'm definitely going to have to reread the Bear and the Nightingale because I don't remember everything that happened. This is about Vasilisa Petrova. It's set in like a fictional version of Russia, I think, and it's very wintry. It's a folk tale that is like reimagined, I believe. She is a young girl that is born with magic, and her family, her dad marries a woman that's very, very terrified of magic. But most of the people in this little tiny town, to keep themselves safe, will leave offerings for like these little domestic spirits and sprites, and her stepmom is like, no magic, not at all, and some bad things start happening. This is a continuation of that story where Vasya has to kind of protect her family and her people. I don't know exactly what happens in these two. I just knew that I absolutely was obsessed with the first one. It had such good wintry vibes, and I need to read the other two, and I think I'm going to read them in like November or December. It's probably going to be a reading vlog that I read in November and comes out in December. Mate by Ali Hazelwood is another book that I want to read. I know how ridiculous this series is, and I am not normally a fan of Omegaverse. However, I thought Bride was so fun and so good if you can get past like the spicy scenes, and I think Mate is going to be really good too. This is going to be like another werewolf love story, except instead of a werewolf and a vampire, it's like a werewolf and someone else. I don't know the premise, to be honest. I just know it's in that universe. I found the universe so fun. It's the only Ali Hazelwood book I've ever read, and I want to read Mate, which is the, like, I guess, interconnected standalone that kind of goes along with it, because they're just so fun and so ridiculous, and I need something like that in my life in the cold days of November and December. And then last but not least, complete 180 from Mate by Ali Hazelwood is A Sword of Kaigan. This is by Emma Wong. So I initially DNF'd Blood Over Brighthaven because I found the beginning of it very boring, and then I did a vlog that didn't actually pan out and ended up rereading it, and it was about books that I DNF'd before and trying to reread them, and I ended up really liking it. It was a little bit heavy-handed, but I've also heard really good things about this. This is her book that I think she actually self-published before Blood Over Brighthaven, and it's about like an older woman who used to be a warrior and then ends up as a mother, and I think it's her grappling with that, but it's also about like the government hiding things from them. I don't know much else about it. I know it's a war story. I know it is very heavy and has a lot of very rough imagery. It really does not pull punches when it comes to talking about war, and I think it'll be a really interesting book to read, and it is one that I do want to finish by the end of the year because I bought this a while ago and I really want to read it, and I just haven't yet. I don't know why. And then a book that I think could still shock me and become my favorite of the year. I have two that I could think of, and the only reason that they shock me are two very specific reasons. The first is Sword of Kaigan, and that's just because originally when I read Blood Over Brighthaven, I DNF'd it. I didn't end up giving that a 5. I gave it a 4.5, so maybe this will shock me and be a 5. It wouldn't be too shocking if it's a 5. However, I also have Camp Damascus, which I did not bring in here for some reason, but that is a book by Chuck Tingle, and the only reason that I think that it would be a surprise for that to be a 5 is because it has a big storyline about Damascus beetles. I really want to read it, and I really think I'm going to love it if I can get past the bugs, because it is a story of a conversion camp and the horrible things that they're doing to try and get these kids to not be LGBTQ, and it's got a lot of religious trauma in it, and I think that I would really relate to it. I just don't know if I can get past the bugs, but I think it would be one of my favorites of the year if I can, and it will be shocking if I'll be able to get myself to actually finish that book. I just have such an aversion to bugs. I have a huge phobia. I don't like them. They gross me out. And we'll see. Maybe I can... I've DNF'd more than one book that has bugs as like one of the main premises. It's too much for me. And then last but not least, as far as the questions go, have I already started making reading plans for 2026? I have. I have a whole TBR. A lot of the books that are on my TBR are backlist books. I really want to... I'm gonna start some sort of series. I think it's gonna be one of my like bookish New Year's resolutions is to read through my backlist, my TBR, and get through that. I've been doing pretty good at it. I haven't actually bought any books in a while, but I want to be able to buy books without feeling guilty. So I want to get through some of my other books. But there are a couple books that haven't come out yet that I'm really excited about. Espiritu is a sequel to The Cemetery Boys, which is about a trans bruja, and he ends up summoning the wrong person. He's trying to find out what happened to his cousin, and he ends up summoning this other boy, and they they possibly fall in love. This is a continuation of that. So it looks like it's directly a sequel of the first two main characters. So I'm not going to tell you much about the synopsis because it might give away some stuff for the first one, but I am really excited about it. I'm so glad that it is a romance that I'm glad that it is an actual sequel because I do like interconnected standalones, but sometimes I want a little bit more of the storyline of the first two people. And I think this one is from the other boy's perspective, the boy that was summoned. So I'm not going to say much else, but I'm really excited about it. When I read Cemetery Boys, I think it was 2024. I'm not sure, but it was one of my favorite books of the year. I actually have it right here. It's just so cute, and I think the next one will be really, really good as well. So I'm really excited about that. That doesn't come out for a while. Oh, it doesn't come out until September of 2026. That is such a long time. And then one of the YouTubers that I follow has written a book. Cindy Pham, Read with Cindy, I think is her name on YouTube. Secret World of Briar Rose. So this is a Sleeping Beauty retelling, and I'm really excited about it. It's about escapism, grief, and dreaming of a better world. And I'm really excited about it because I really love Cindy's channel, and I think that she'd be a great writer. I definitely want to read that. It does not come out until June of 2026. Why are they doing this to me? But like I said, most of my reading, especially towards the beginning of the year, I want to start working on my backlist and my TBR, my physical TBR, and my Kobo TBR, and get through some of that. I do want to buy new books, but I also need to get through some of the books that I have on my shelf, or kind of reckon with myself and realize that maybe I'm never actually going to read some of these books, because we're starting to thin out with books that I'm really, really excited about reading that are on my shelves. There are plenty, but there are some mixed in where I'm like, am I really actually going to read that, or am I just being hopeful and wishful thinking is ensuing? I don't know. That is all I have for the questions. I'm really, really excited about the end of the year, and I think it's going to be a great time to read, especially once the semester is over and I'm way less busy. I will do as much reading as I can to try and get ahead before the next semester starts. But perfect time of year for reading. It's cozy. I'm basic. I want to curl up with a book and a blanket and some fun fairy lights and just go to town. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that maybe it gave you some ideas of what to read. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Come and be part of my little coven community, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!